Kirby's Epic Yarn. A Kirby game so obnoxiously warm and fuzzy, it's still remembered fondly today for that fact alone. In my experience, certain Kirby games struggle to stand out from other entries, in both aesthetic and mechanical ways, but Epic Yarn goes for something different in both categories. A decision that either turns it into a truly special entry, or a toothless disappointment prioritizing style over substance. This can be a divisive game, but Kirby fans will likely have a good time with it, as its distinct yarn aesthetic capitalizes on one of the series' greatest successes, its wholesome charm. Kirby's Epic Charm. In this video, I'm going to lay out what I found to be the best and the worst aspects of this game. Please be aware that I'm reviewing the original Nintendo Wii version of Kirby's Epic Yarn. I did consider covering the enhanced 3DS re-release, Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, but after looking into it, it seems to largely be considered a downgrade from the original version, with players citing a devilish mode that's more annoying than challenging, unnecessary new Ravel abilities inelegantly tossed throughout levels, and an altogether removal of co-op play. This is of course just what I heard other people say, and aren't my actual sentiments to the quality of the new additions in the re-release. But common opinion does suggest that Extra Epic Yarn doesn't capture the same stressless atmosphere of the original. So with all that said, the enhanced 3DS re-release will not be factored into this review. Be warned that full spoilers for Kirby's Epic Yarn are on the table. The best. Number 1, the yarn aesthetic. Of course we're starting here. It's immediately apparent how unique this game looks, not only for the Kirby series, but compared to a lot of games. This visual style was especially novel for the time, giving the game a strong identity that even many years later still stands out for its distinct look. This is a very cute and cozy game, and the presentation's pulling a lot of the weight. There's a colorful simplicity to this style that's very inviting, with a touch of nostalgia. Characters, enemies, and the world itself make creative use out of the yarn theme. Even just moving Kirby through an environment, subtly transforming into various shapes to accentuate that movement, looks so smooth and effortless. New levels could have just been unlocked, but instead they open up with mesmerizing animations utilizing yarn, triggered with various patches you bring back from completing levels. This process makes even the simple action of opening the next level not only fun, but it feels more rewarding being presented this way, like you're actually making a difference in the world, while also giving you a better sense of progression. Prince Fluff's worth mentioning for his simple and appealing design. He looks great next to Kirby, and makes for an appealing player 2 option. This game's just so warm and cuddly. By the end of the adventure, you even get to travel through classic Dreamland locations in the style. Epic Yarn knew that its original appearance was its greatest strength, and so it expresses it in as many ways as it can. Number 2, a cozy and wholesome charm. Epic Yarn's desire to charm the player goes beyond its childlike aesthetic in a lot of ways. The soundtrack's especially noteworthy. A lot of peaceful piano scores for a comfortable atmosphere. It's remarkably fitting that the story itself's presented with narration, like Grandpa's telling you a bedtime story. Kirby even gets his own room that you can decorate with various objects and fabrics you find throughout the adventure. Collectibles are especially rewarding because of this, since they can be used to decorate not only your room, but various apartment rooms that ask for certain objects to attract tenants, who in turn offer various minigames and rewards to those who bother. This simple addition of decking out your room to reflect your own taste adds a lot more to the vibe than you'd think. This game's so relaxing, it almost feels meditative. And that brings me to one of the biggest complaints I've seen for Epic Yarn: the fact that you can't die in this game, and I have no problem with that. If Kirby ever takes damage or falls into a pit, you're only ever punished by losing beads, a resource you're constantly collecting throughout levels. And this loss actually feels more meaningful than losing an amount of health or lives. Beads affect your medal ranking at the end of levels, are used to buy things in Patch Plaza, and can even expand the apartment building for more tenants to move in, so more minigames are available. If you ask me, this is a much better incentive to play it safe than an arbitrary amount of health or lives. It's surprisingly fun to play through levels collecting as many as you can without getting hit. And even beyond that, not being able to die fits the tone of this game. It also means your experience is rarely interrupted, since you're never made to start a sequence over. This is a fantastic game for those new to them, or for people who just want a more chill, streamlined experience, and we can't forget the little touches that just make the player feel good. Adorable Waddle Dees attempting to tackle Kirby who don't even deal damage, fixing a boo-boo on a giant stuffed bear, even Kirby's animations like sledding around on ice, or jumping rope while idle. It's all so incessantly charming, and the developers knew it. Between the atmosphere, pacing, and welcoming mechanics, Kirby's Epic Yarn wants you to have a great time playing it while giving you a setting that truly feels safe and welcoming. Number 3, fun and simple fundamentals. As I said, this is an easy game for anyone to pick up and play, especially younger or less experienced players. As a 2D game, multiplayer works surprisingly well since it never gets too chaotic. Levels are considerately designed around Kirby's new moveset, particularly his new rope ability that lets him grab things and wrap them up so he can throw them. Grabbing and throwing's a nice supplement to his basic skill set here, since he can still run and jump while holding something in his hands. The Tenant minigames offer several kinds of challenges: hide and seek, bead collecting, defeating enemies in a time limit, but the most creative one makes use of the carrying ability. Carry's Transports does a great job getting the player to think differently about how to move through a level while keeping something with you. Kirby may not have copy abilities this time around, but he does have special transformations. While these offer more variety for play, they can be hit or miss. Thankfully, most of them hit, and for the few misses, they at least never overstay their welcome, only being used a few times overall. The fire engine's especially inspired, having you tilt the Wiimote to aim a water hose while simultaneously moving with the D-pad, and it works really well. The dolphin's a wonderful upgrade for easy underwater movement the few times it shows up, and a few of the other forms are great for just letting you feel powerful. Despite most levels being fairly short, they honestly have the ideal length, and there are a good amount of them overall, with each one having some quality that helps it stand out, usually in its theming. Shout out to the moves and transformations, which are taught seamlessly in the background, not interrupting the game for those who don't need them, which is always appreciated. Kirby's Epic Yarn's considerately designed, with an undeniable purity. This is an imaginative concept executed very well for a first try. But while I wouldn't say this game has many weaknesses, especially glaring ones, I do have a few hangups to discuss, as well as the very fact that an easygoing time isn't what everyone's looking for. The worst. Number 1, a divisive style. As much as I've praised this game's unique pace and atmosphere, there's no question that it's not for everyone. If you're looking for a game that offers really any kind of challenge, you're not going to find much here. Kirby's Epic Yarn can be especially unengaging if you're not in the right headspace for it. There's no avoiding the relaxing mood with this one, and that can be dull for some people. While you could say this for a lot of games, Epic Yarn's at its best when you settle in and get as much as you can out of the experience. Breezing through this game just to beat it will likely have you feeling unfulfilled, which brings me to an unfortunate truth. This game might be a little too simple. It's well made, sincere, and can absolutely be special for the right person, but very little of what it offers is memorable or worth going out of your way to experience. When you break it down, this is pretty generic Kirby fare, with even less teeth than most of the other titles. Even the final boss is completely unimpressive. Levels are solid, but not much really stands out about them beyond their themes, nor do they introduce mechanics or ideas that you haven't seen before. Aside from a few gold medals and tenant challenges, very little of what's here even asks for much of real ability out of a seasoned video game player. Playing this game to beat it will be a fast experience in particular, since most of Epic Yarn's playtime comes from doing everything. If you're not bothering with collectibles, bonus stages, or tenant games, it's not that hard to beat this in one sitting. Which is where the you can't die complaint really comes from, since if you don't care about beads, there there aren't any consequences to failure. And considering the game rarely presents level design or concepts that are anything special, it's no wonder certain players get so little out of it. This all must sound pretty negative, especially after my praises earlier, since I can get into this game's relaxed vibe, and I generally like collecting everything in games. But I recognize that this kind of pace and those kind of priorities aren't for everyone, and I do wish the game offered more stimulating concepts. The game certainly uses the yarn aesthetic as much as it can visually, but it's not integrated much mechanically. The yarn theme could have been pushed a lot further creatively, since as is, this game could easily be swapped to a more standard Kirby look without having to change much. The art style's really doing a lot of the work here, because if this was the same game without the yarn aesthetic, it'd be a woefully unspecial Kirby title, looking at the level and mechanical design alone. Number 2, a few more things. Let's start with the lacking transformations. The Digger is one of the worst. Exploring in this form takes a lot of time if you're trying to be thorough, and moving around's kind of awkward. I really can't stand to use it. The train gets a lot of flack for how finicky the hit detection with the track itself can be, since you're directly drawing it onto the screen with the Wiimote. It's not the best. These segments can also feel slow when exploring thoroughly, and falling off the track can really kill momentum, especially if you're trying to keep something in tow. Like I said earlier, at the very least no one transformation's used too much, but each one does have a secret level dedicated to it, so those can be a slog to get through if you don't like the transformation. Missable collectibles can be unsurprisingly annoying. The off-roader and border levels are by far the worst when it comes to this, since they're one-way trips with precise platforming, and you have no way of knowing ahead of time what paths collectibles are on, making a lot of these segments trial and error, and easy to have to replay if you want them. Since there's no way to die in this game, missing something means playing through the whole level again, but thankfully not much is missable. Though the auto-scrolling level Boom Boatyard deserves mention, since it can't be completed any quicker on repeat playthroughs, and it has a few easily missable treasures. Kirby's Epic Yarn's an easy-to-enjoy game that doesn't have many notable problems. Of the Kirby games I've played, this is one of my favorites, and I wouldn't say that's just for the presentation. It feels rewarding completing these levels while grabbing everything along the way. I do think this game could ask a bit more out of the player though, since not much about this experience really stuck with me afterwards. This isn't a bold or influential game, but it's still a fun time with the right approach. It relies on its relentless wholesomeness, so I'd only really recommend it to those who I think would specifically appreciate this tone and pace. Kirby's Epic Yarn's an interesting entry in its series that holds up well today, with different mechanical and aesthetic focuses for an original, if somewhat tame, experience. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, consider becoming a member of the channel to access various perks and support me and my videos. And feel free to let me know in the comments any games you'd be interested to hear my thoughts on. As always, be well everyone, and I'll see you next time.